Good evening. I'd like to call to order our 1186th regular meeting of the Board of Library Trustees, BVLD. Today is Thursday, August 20th, and we're meeting at the beautiful Miralles Library. And just wanted to especially thank the staff who've made this possible. I know it's not the easiest thing, but it's great for the board to get out of the Peninsula Center on occasion and visit the other branches. Executive Assistant Bender, would you please take the roll call?
Certainly. Trustee Butler.
Here.
Trustee Easton. Here. Trustee Wittenberry. Here. Trustee Wong.
Here.
We have a quorum. Trustee Uno will not be joining us this week.
Thank you very much. At this time, a salute to the flag, and I will lead the group in the salute to the flag. Okay. All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you very much. I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. So moved. Motion made by Vice President Wong. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Seeing none opposed, it passes. At this point, just a few remarks. A reminder to all that the 3 library branches will be closed on Monday, September 7th, in observance of Labor Day. Another announcement, all trustees should have received an email from Human Resources Manager, Uden Armstrong, outlining the required training courses that we're all required to take. Everyone's been given login and password information and a time frame to complete the trainings. And as soon as they're completed, please be sure to forward your certificate to Executive Assistant Bender so it can be uploaded and displayed on our website so that the public and our constituents know that we are rightfully trained and we've done our duty. Also, I just wanted to quickly remark the Chamber of Commerce hosted a beautiful garden party to commemorate the Chamber's 70th anniversary. It was very well attended and a great community event. So congratulations to the Chamber of Commerce. The board and staff did a great job organizing that event. Are there any other trustees that have additional comments or announcements at this point?
I will just say that I have completed all of the required training.
Very good.
Yay!
And is there proof on the website that you've done so?
Yes, proof on the website. Right, Ms. Bender?
Yes.
Very good. Anyone else? All right, thank you. Item number 6, Executive Assistant Bender, are there any public comments for tonight's meeting?
No, sir, there are not.
Thank you. With regards to the consent calendar, can I have a motion to approve the items and recommended actions in the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Before we vote,
Mhm.
I would like to pull off the financial reports. I just had a couple questions about those.
Just item C then?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the items and recommended actions in the consent calendar as presented with the exception of item C, which has been pulled by Secretary Wittenberry?
So moved.
Motion made by Trustee Wong. Do we approve the entire thing except C first, or do we discuss C and then read it all?
No, just approve the entire thing with the exception of item C, and then we'll go into agenda number 8, which is consideration of items.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion that's been made by Vice President Wong?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay. So consideration of items removed, that's item C, financial reports. So Secretary Wittenberry, please.
Yes, so I just had a question. I saw that you had outlined that our building and maintenance were lower and that helped our budget. I found it a little surprising that any expenses have gone down right now. And I just wanted you to address whether you expect it to continue at that lower rate or if that was an anomaly.
Just for clarity, was this in the descriptive memo?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me what it was buried in all of those financial things that Will sent us. And I think you explained why some of the expenses had gone down, and with the respect to building and maintenance, you specifically said that those expenses had gone down in terms of, they were sort of everyday expenses, which I was surprised they had gone down, like water, electricity, things like that.
Will, I definitely invite you to speak on that, but I'll also invite our facilities manager, Daniel Gutierrez, to speak on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the utilities, I think we've been lower than our budget for utilities over the last couple of years. And part of that was because we had made some adjustments a few years ago to increase the utilities expense in our budget. But we just haven't, some of those numbers have not been as high as they were back in like 2022, I believe, 2023. But we haven't really changed the utilities budget numbers. And the other categories, I believe Daniel might be able to address some of those regarding like the cleaning supplies, landscape boiler and elevator maintenance costs.
Yeah. Hello, good evening. A lot of those costs are just a little bit lower than what they were previous years circumstantially. We didn't have as many things break this last year as what we did, in previous years. We also are updating a lot of more of our systems, so we're having them be a little bit more robust than they were previously also, and so more efficient. Like our electric bills are basically about maintaining what they're the same, even though we've cut what we're using in half, especially with the chiller that we installed in 2022. Unfortunately, this year we've been using it a lot more, so we're seeing the numbers go back up for summer to what they were pre-chiller replacement. And so those are some things that are going to fluctuate year by year. Same thing with the like building maintenance and grounds item number. That's going to fluctuate year by year because some years we just have a lot more bigger things that end up breaking, and some years we don't have as many. We are trying to take things on more as a facilities department so that we can continue to drop that rather than hiring contractors out. And that's a big reason why there's a lot more savings. And so after a couple of years of trend, we're going to see how that goes because our facilities department is taking on more, and we're trying to find a balance between maintaining our base duties and being able to deliver these budgetary items and savings throughout the district. So in the next couple of years, if we see a trend that everything is kind of maintaining at a lower rate, then we'll be able to drop those down a little bit because of what the historic trends are. And so what they are now is according to what the historic trends have been in the past. And we also had kind of a more favorable year as far as like a lot of the smaller breaks, the $15,000, $10,000, have to hire a contractor jobs that we do. So that's a reason why we are further under budget than what we normally are in these sections.
Okay, so just to circle back to the main question, do we expect those savings to continue, or are you telling me that we just had a good year and they'll probably...
Right now, it seems like we had a good year. And then we'll have to see what the trends are over the next couple of years since we are kind of rearranging some of the responsibilities that we're doing with the facility.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted a sense of that. My own utilities certainly have not gone down.
Yes.
I just wanted to understand why.
Yeah, we've done a lot to reduce the amount of kilowatt hours that we use. Since 2018, we've been able to cut that by 50%. And so that has really helped us since Southern California Edison raised the rates on every kilowatt hour. And so we were saving a lot over the last couple of years, but like this year, since those rates went up further, we're basically paying what we were before for half of what we're using.
Thank you very much. And thank you for making those.
No problem.
So we can be fiscally responsible. I did have one other question related to the finance report. And Will, this is on the chart where it shows our internal revenue. And it's clear that the majority, or maybe even the vast majority, is coming from passport services. And I know it's been mentioned, and I've just seen it in reality, that some people now are starting to switch to doing that online. So has there been a plan discussed for making up that internal revenue in other ways? Are we strategically planning for that as passport services may continue to dwindle over the next few years as people adjust to the online services?
I think I can probably speak to that. I mean, yes, we've also been exploring ways that we can actually increase passports. But one of the challenges with the passport service is that we have to weigh our own staffing, hiring somebody, expanding the hours. As it stands right now, we only have 2 individuals who are hired specifically for passports. Every other passport agent does a dual duty by holding another job in the library, literally all the way up to like our payroll analyst is also a passport agent. And there's managers and circulation circulation clerks that are also doing passports. So we have to kind of weigh the workload on them versus the paying, hiring a part-time person to come in and do passports. We have been exploring, Brenda Siebert, the passport supervisor, is exploring putting a laptop out so that people can type out their applications and hopefully, look at them, review them for errors or mistakes before they actually print them and submit them. We've put the passport icon on all the public terminals upstairs. So if you go upstairs to one of our public terminals and want to do a passport application, you can just click on an icon and fill it out and print it, because that's often one of the challenges is there can be no errors on the passport application when you first turn it in. We're also exploring, they've already started doing digital photographs. So instead of only print photographs, now doing digital photographs. Beyond that, we would have to start looking at expanding hours or adding additional agents or adding additional offices, additional seats. Instead of having 2 going, maybe have 3 going. The problem is we are also seeing a decrease in just the number of passport applicants. So you can only open just so many hours. You can only offer just so many offices before you're kind of saturating the market with service above and beyond what the need requires.
Sorry to interrupt. So, and that decrease in demand for the service is solely because of the State Department's new modifications to the reapplication process, right?
I mean, I think I can't speak directly to that. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but we are seeing more people do their passports online if they can. Just the State Department is sending out reminder emails that say your passport is due for renewal in a year. There are more and more agencies, including CVS and Walgreens, that will do digital passport photos. You can upload a digital photo, which you never could before. So there's this opportunities like that for people who know how and have the ability to do renewals like that. But to get a first-time passport, many, especially families, they need to come in. They want to come in. Mm-hmm. They need that assistance, and I think we're still doing very, very good with that. When we look about making up like what we might lose in passports, I think there's a lot of exploring what those options might be. There's no doubt that our meeting rooms are very popular. They're still popular. We have talked about kind of looking at how we charge for meeting rooms. At the same time, for full transparency, we've also had a lot of conversations about making meeting rooms free to people who have library cards or are in the community, So as an agency that really strives to make our services available and to reduce barriers, and financial barrier is a big barrier, reduce those barriers to our patrons. We have to get a little more creative. And I think in some ways that's why I really looked at, the IT department and the facilities department. We may put an initial outlay of, several $1,000s for a piece of equipment. But if that means that the facilities department can get trained on that piece of equipment, and from then on, we are not calling on $600 service calls. That's one of the ways Daniel has really been able to bring down the costs and facilities. Even something that you would think might be a really skill level task, like refurbishing furniture or reupholstering leather riveted furnishings. His team is actually exploring how to do that in-house. So where you might go to an upholsterer and spend $500 a chair, if we can do it in-house for two, that's how we're going to also try and reduce our costs. So as much as we are exploring and kind of are brainstorming, what can we do to increase our internal revenue, we're also exploring how to decrease our internal costs and seeing if we can kind of offset it there. Because there does come a point where there's really very little that you can charge for, especially when it's kind of our core function is to try and not charge. We've cut fines and fees for that reason. We don't have overdue charges just for that reason. We have nonprofit rates and we do, but we do weddings and we've been promoting weddings and, having more opportunity for things like that because those can be, pretty good money makers. So it's a combination of both. It's a combination of trying to see how to expand passports, but within our capacity. Because if we hired a part-time person to do more passports, well, that has an exponential salary and possibly even CalPERS cost that would far outweigh what you would make in processing 50 more passports, because that is a fixed rate. That's it.
Right.
Where
I wasn't advocating expanded. I was asking if you'd been strategic in thinking.
Yeah, I mean, definitely exploring both the expansions and the reductions.
I think that's really important that you continue to.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Dr.
Absolutely.
Thanks for bringing that up. All right. So at this point, can I have a motion to approve item number C on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Motion made by Secretary Wittenberry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Great. And now I'll turn it over to Director Addington to go over some upcoming conferences and events for the board.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So I just have a few that I wanted to kind of bring back to the attention of the board if you haven't already had these on your calendar. On September 2nd, which is a Wednesday, the Palos Verdes Chamber Community Business Expo will be happening at the Norris Pavilion. It's from 4 to 7 in the evening. There is no cost for anybody to attend this. There was a small fee for us to have a table there, but I found I thought it would be beneficial to have us there. It is a business expo, but it's also a community expo, and there's a great connection with PVP USD and the students and their internship program. So I will be working the table that evening, as well as 2 other staff members with me. I welcome and encourage any trustees who might want to stop by. We'd love to see you. I think it'll be a really wonderful event. They have held this business expo before, but this time they're really expanding it and kind of making it a little more engaging with the connections with the schools and further communities. So that'll be I think that'll be a fun event, and I welcome you to attend.
Can you just address, are they going to have parking available since it's accessible?
They have an agreement with the Promenade Mall to be able to use the parking structure there for this event. So yeah, you will be able to park there. And I believe if you go on the PV Chamber website, there's more information about parking. But I do know that you can use the Promenade Mall. And then on September 19th, which is a Saturday, it is the 69th annual Rolling Hills Estates City Celebration. It's at the Empty Saddle Club again this year. I think many of you may have attended at some point in the past. We will be tabling again, so we'll have a nice booth, talk about upcoming programs and whatnot. Again, I will be there with 2 of my fellow coworkers, so welcome the trustees to stop by. There typically is a period where they do elected official introductions. and they often invite the local legislators. As it gets closer, we'll get more information on that, but I will say it's typically around noon that they kind of have that celebration and they do all the speeches and whatnot. I also wanted to call out that on September 22nd, which is a Tuesday afternoon, we will be celebrating the 20th anniversary of our own annex. Believe it or not, the annex turns 20 years old, and we have partnered with the foundation to hold a little bit of a birthday party. So it'll be from 3 to 4 in the afternoon, not a long event, but it will be up on the roof of the Peninsula Center Library, just outside of the main doors of the annex. 3 to 4 on September 22nd. We have, through the foundation, I've been working with Kathy Caesar, who is their new development director, to invite donors and elected officials and legislators. We're certainly hoping that we'll get a nice certificate to go alongside our opening certificate from Supervisor Hahn's office. So fingers crossed. But that will be an opportunity for cake and community and, of course, recognition of 2 decades of serving our Peninsula team. So we hope to see you there. And then just wanted to put it on everyone's radar that the California Library Association Conference is coming up in October. That'll be from October 22nd to the 24th. It is in Riverside. If you are interested, and there is information online, so if you go to California Library Association Annual Conference, you can see what is the tentative schedule, and kind of maybe not every single program, but there's several of the programs listed. But if you're interested in that, please do reach out to either myself or Executive Assistant Bender.
Do you know if we can buy a day pass, or is
Yes.
it just one price?
No, there are, I believe there are ways to buy day passes. I believe there are also opportunities to do only the exhibit hall if you didn't really want to go to any of the sessions and you just kind of wanted to experience the event. It's drivable to Riverside. I think you can get only an exhibit. But I don't believe that even a regular registration for a trustee, it's not, it's very nominal. It's a decent price. So if there are a couple of things that you'd like to see, do let us know. As you know, when we started the new fiscal year, we started our whole travel budget over again. So as of right now, we've only spent about $280 of our travel budget. So we should be fine with that. And yeah, I think those are all the ones that we have on the agenda to highlight tonight. So I'll end my report there.
Thank you.
A quick question. You mentioned the new executive director. I remember you sending out an email that was there going to be some sort of informal or meet and greet?
There was.
And
yeah.
How did that go? And
yeah, I'm happy to share a little bit of that now. We had an informal meet and greet with her on, I just want to make sure I've got the right date, on August 6th. So the staff held like a coffee and bagels, and several members of the foundation also came along with Kathy, and just an opportunity for the staff to kind of introduce themselves and get to know her. It went very, very well. We, really enjoyed having her on board, and
none of us
went. Beth did. Yeah,
great.
Beth was able to go.
We're going to report on that.
Well, you reminded me right now that I need to report.
We'll get there.
And so was also able to attend as well. So I can report a little bit more at the foundation report too. But it was a lovely event. We just had an opportunity to very informally have coffee and bagels and chat and get to know everybody. So yeah, it went really well. Yeah, good.
Thank you. All right, time for the facilities update. So I'll invite Facilities Manager Gutierrez to join us back up at the pulpit and share what's been going on.
Hello. Since we're here at Marilest, I'll start with the Marilest Circ Desk project. We've been designing it over some time with a couple of different members of staff and the overall Marilest staff. And at this point, we're developing a scope and getting a budgetary number before we go out to competitive bid. And so right now we're just waiting for a contractor that we've been working with to get us that first initial proposal and budget, and then we'll develop the scope and then put it out and then see what we get back on that. So we anticipate that moving forward as we come along. And then transferring over to Peninsula Center.
I'm sorry, Daniel, before you do that, what's the update on, I see we're still missing some tiles and things on the ceiling. What's the update on the leak situation?
So we did refurbish that whole drainage in the front area, but we haven't had any rain to actually test it since we've done it. And so we don't want to put up new tiles in case if they just get ruined. And so we're just waiting for rain to see whether or not that was the full complete fix. But those gutters that were up there, we stripped them back and then rebuilt the whole foundation. And then we were able to do that internally. Oh, wow. So hopefully that'll be no problem. And Peninsula Center, we've got the kitchen going, and we anticipate the cabinets going in next Tuesday through Thursday. We were doing the plumbing and electrical over the last little couple weeks, and we're going to be replacing the drywall that we had to rip out over the weekend, and we'll be ready for the cabinets to start being installed by the vendor on Tuesday, and then put everything back together and finish over that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then have it hopefully open for staff on August 31st. So that's been moving along pretty well. And then the big update, the front area. Last time we talked, we were going to have some contractors come out and price the waterproofing of the area that we discovered that was underneath. We knew that there was water intrusion in that area, but we didn't know where that area was underneath all of the materials that we ripped out in the demo of that whole front walkway. So when we had those contractors come out, they told us that we should probably have a waterproofing consultant to come out and give what exactly that area needs. And so we had to pivot, and instead of taking those and then moving forward with what that is and adding to the plans, we did go with a consultant, and we have our structural plans, our civil plans, and our landscape plans. And then once we have all of those, the consultant for waterproofing is going to take all of that into consideration and give their recommendation of what we need. And then we're hoping to be able to submit to the city next Friday. And so once we're able to get submitted to the city and then to the county, we're hoping that takes 2 to 3 weeks. It'll be about 2.5 months of like heavy construction to finish it all. So right now we're looking at in November as a finish date. And so we're finally getting really close to that breakthrough point. We've been working really hard to get to that. And yesterday we had some pretty constructive meetings. So it's an everyday thing. And so those are the large projects that we've been doing. We have the director's update, on which we have some of the smaller things that we do as facilities to save money throughout, and be willing to take any questions if you'd like. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now I'll ask Deputy Director Roy to update us with regards to the strategic plan.
Bring my laptop up here so I can face this way. Okay. So we're going to take a little bit of a tour, and I'm going to move this up just so the audience can hear through our progress with the strategic plan. We'll start with a little bit of review of our strategic priorities. As you recall, we did have 4 categories of strategic priorities: our organizational excellence, access to information and environments, learning, inspiration, and imagination. Oh, I'm trying to move our Zoom window out of the way, which you can't see, but I can. And inclusion and belonging. So we're only going to look at one of these tonight because we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into it. And then in future meetings, we'll be able to look at each of the other categories. For tonight, we're going to look at access to information and environments. And for each of these strategic priorities that we had in our plan, we have major objectives for all of them. So these are the major objectives that we had for access to information and environments. For innovations and new technologies are actively explored and evaluated. In terms of our collections, our collection scope and size align with community interests and allow easy access to needed materials. And then physical and online spaces are inclusive, welcoming, and in accordance with best practices and government standards. So we're going to use these as a guide to kind of go through and look at some of the accomplishments that we've had so far. As a review, this is a fairly new strategic plan to us. It started in January of 2026. Of course, we had been working on developing it for a year prior to that. We rolled it out to the staff in October of 2025, and it went into effect January of 2026. So for innovation, let's start with our bandwidth upgrade. PVLD's internet connection is now 10 times faster than it was a couple of months ago because in July, the IT department, working with some partners, Scenic and Cox, they have upgraded the 1 gigabyte per second pipeline to a 10 gigabyte per second fiber optic pipeline, which obviously makes the connection speed so much faster for anyone using our internet through the library. We also have a new hydroponic farm at the Malaga Cove Library. Yes, you can hear the trickle of the one behind me. This thanks to a generous donation from one of our community members in Malaga. But we are fully expecting that that hydroponic farm to be just as successful as the one we've had here at Miralest for quite a while. We've been hearing wonderful stories from especially the students who come after school, who during harvest week like to harvest some of the lettuce or other foods that come out of there and take them straight over to the water fountain so they can wash them and eat them before they even leave the library. So we're always tickled when they get that excited about it. As a fun fact, it is harvest week over at Malaga Cove today. I think their first harvest week since they've got this new machine. And then next week is our harvest week for this machine right over here. So
where is it located in Melbourne?
it is in the community room.
By the
So-
window.
yeah.
Where we meet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So be sure to stop by one of those locations. Let's see if I can get this. Okay, other innovations and new technologies. We upgraded our self-checkout machines. So these are the big upright machines at Peninsula Center that help with our patron flow. Now these machines have the capability to look at what's on your account, check on your holds, pay fees, or actually see if there's any fees on there. You would still go to the desk to pay for it, or even reserve one of our computer workstations there. So these are now multifunction machines, and they're newly upgraded, and we're excited to have those there. As you can see from this picture, the IT department has already upgraded the Wi-Fi and security cameras that overlook the plaza. We didn't get the down part of this picture because it's still under construction, but we're excited. Once our plaza is complete, the Wi-Fi and the security will already be in place. Go. This is just a little fun fact. We have a new video doorbell where all of our deliveries come through Peninsula Center. This is really going to be helpful to our staff who receive all of the books that come into the library and all of the other mail that comes through. So this was a fun little upgrade that really helped them be able to see who's at the door and get back to accept our deliveries. And we got a new printer at our adult services workstation. The old printer had paid its dues and worked long and hard. We allowed it to retire and put in a new printer there. I'm sure the patrons are enjoying that. It is a nice upgrade. So looking at our other objective collections and collection scope and size, we have a completely new online collection, and this just came up within the last couple of weeks, available to our patrons, called Comics Plus. This is a different kind of database compared to what you might be used to if you use Hoopla or Canopy or something like that. You have unlimited access to thousands of digital comics and graphic novels and manga. There are separate collections for children's, teens, and adults. And what's different is that there are no holds or wait lists or borrowing limits. Just go in there, you get instant access to all of their inventory of comics and manga and graphic novels, and it's all right there from the minute you go in. So that's only been up for our patrons for a couple of weeks, and we've been marketing that recently. Another new collection, and this is just for the YR department right now, but we're closely watching how popular these are. This is the Playaway audiobook. You may be familiar with these. They've been around quite a while, but they're new to PVLD. This is a small, self-contained digital audiobook player. It comes preloaded with a specific title. So when you check it out, it comes with that little player, and all you do is plug in your headphones, and you're ready to go. From what I've heard, they have been flying off the shelves here at the branches, and they're starting to get a following as well. Again, this has only been available for maybe a week or two, so they're very new to our collection, and we're excited to have these. A collection that's not very new, World Languages. This is a smaller collection in our library, but very, very popular. We still circulate over 1,000 items per month from World Languages, even though it's a fairly small collection. And we have recently added books printed in Bengali, Chinese, Farsi, French, German, Hindi, Portuguese, Russian, and Tagalog. So we are actively developing this very popular collection. We've added hotspots, 44 more hotspots. So these are so popular because they allow anybody to get access to the internet where they may not have access if there's a cell signal. And obviously, access to the internet is access to all kinds of resources, not just PVLD, but beyond. But even with the hotspot and internet access, there is so much available just through our website that a lot of users can check these out and then have access to, like our new Comics Plus collection, if they didn't have an internet connection already. So what we had noticed was that in 2025, even with only about 66 of these in the collection, they were circulating at about that per month, about 60 to 65 circulations per month. And then in 2026, the first half of 2026, we saw that jump up to about 80 circ per month, even though we still only had 60 of them. Almost every one of them was either on hold or checked out at any given time. So we've now increased that number to 110. Those are available at all 3 branches.
So
Excuse me. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just curious. They check it out. They can take it home. Is that
That's correct. Yeah.
And then how long can they?
I believe there's a special circ rule for this. It's not the same as books. It's 3 weeks. Okay.
Can these be placed on hold via the app?
They absolutely
like
can be placed on hold. Yes, especially if they're all checked out
through the PVLD app, just like
Through-
the book did?
Yeah, so you can search them through
Okay.
the catalog.
Wow, thank you.
I think they literally search at hotspots.
Moving on, Link Plus. We've heard a lot about this recently. This is definitely something that we've started this year and has been gaining traction. Link Plus, again, is the service where we have a shared catalog and a shared collection with over 65 libraries in California and Nevada. And these include some very big library systems like the San Diego County, San Diego City libraries, San Francisco City libraries. Some of these big libraries that share their collection now with us pretty much give us access to millions more titles than we would have had access before. It operates a little bit like interlibrary loan. It's completely free to our patrons. If you search something in our catalog that we don't have, you'll see that little can't find it, search Link Plus button, which allows you to get into the shared catalog with all these other libraries and find the item and have it within a day or two. So we have been watching this become more and more popular over the last few months. We really only got up and going with this in March, so we're still very early on in our Link Plus journey, but it's proving to be very popular, especially as patrons come to like the reference desk and say, "Do you have this book? I need this really bad." We hear stories about mothers who are helping their kids with an assignment. I need this very specific country of a book, and yet they're all checked out, but we have one that we can get to you in days. So it's a very popular service that we're providing now, and thanks to the generosity of the Peninsula Library Friends Foundation for helping to fund this.
Just out of curiosity,
Sure.
I mean, certainly Palos Verdes is a middle-sized district, and it really helps if we can tap into the resources of a big district like that county. Just out of curiosity, we ever had the opportunity to give back?
Very
In
much so.
fact, it's interesting you asked that because we have a very robust collection of DVDs and CDs that are no longer as robust in libraries as it might be in ours. So we do give back. We're lending more than we're borrowing at this point, although we expect that to catch up over time as our patrons get used to it. But we find, I want to say about 80% of what we're lending is either CDs or DVDs because we have such a big collection of them when a lot of libraries no longer have. Our jigsaw puzzle collection library, we actually have jigsaw puzzle libraries at all 3 of our libraries now. And what's really interesting about this is there's no checkouts required. This is something you drop in, you take a puzzle, and you leave a puzzle. If you don't have a puzzle, you take a puzzle and you bring that one back and then get another one. And for jigsaw enthusiasts, this has been something that they've been very vocal and appreciative of because they no longer have massive piles that they have to keep in their homes. They want to do puzzles every day or have a puzzle they're working on. They can pick one up, drop it back off. And this is something that we've also found is just an interesting swap concept that we've used a lot in some of our programming recently. We've had very popular potted plant swaps as like a program, which has been something that our community has really responded to. Bring in your potted plant and find another one that's perfect for you. We've had art supply swaps that have been extremely popular. We have a very strong artist community on the Hill, and they love to come in with whatever supplies that they're no longer using and then find some that they might be able to use as they continue their art journey. And then recently we heard from PTAC about their movie and clothes swap, which was a success for the teens. So this swapping concept is something that we are enjoying and actively thinking how we can continue. So spaces, let's look at our physical and online spaces. We have it in our plan to make sure that they are inclusive, welcoming, and in accordance with best practice and government standards. A big part of this, especially for our online spaces, is the Title II compliance review. So this is part of the Americans with Disability Act, which requires that not only our physical spaces are accessible, but also our online spaces. And we've been keeping up with our physical spaces anytime we do a project, and our facilities manager Gutierrez is very good about having that in mind anytime something changes. But our online spaces, we haven't really thought about it in that manner prior to a year and a half ago, where we started looking at what that compliance meant for online. And most recently, over the last 6 months or so, our digital services team have undergone a full compliance review where they went through every single web page that we have and made sure that it was in compliance. And then they took it a step further and looked at every single vendor that we work with through our web page and make sure they were in compliance as well, or were working to get in compliance. So this was a very long process that they recently completed in, I want to say, April or May, but it was highly involved, and we're glad that they were able to get through that and make sure that our online spaces are complete.
Can you give us an example of something that would fall under this category?
Sure. The web pages need to be scalable. They need to be able to enlarge and shrink. A lot of times, we want to make sure that if we're linking out to something else, that is, if it's something like a PDF file. I think PDF files were one of the things that they really looked closely at because they're not as accessible as linking to the same data in an HTML web page. So I know that part of some of the things they did was convert some of our information from PDF to HTML, but also just making sure, I think that a lot of the graphics that we use are created in a certain way. The size of the font is a certain size. I know that our digital services team has worked very closely with our social media team to make sure that all of our social media posts meet all the requirements. And then there's also, I know, a spreadsheet that our digital service team works from where they can go from point by point and page by page. Where they click all of the boxes.
And even something like an image, every image has to have a title to it, so that it'll actually say, this is an image of a photograph or a book. This is an image of this. That just leads to that, like, accessibility if you're looking at it on a different screen, on a different monitor. And even, I think there were some times where you think, oh, maybe it doesn't look quite as flashy as it did before, but that's the accessibility part but it reads better. It projects better. If you open it, in a different format. It'll display better. The links are better, things like that. So yeah, he really, our digital services manager, David Campbell, and digital services librarian, Eric Adams, they really went through like every single page. And I think you'll see that like when you look at policies and procedures, it might have opened to like a PDF, and now it really opened to a page with like links. So just all those kind of things.
The strategic plan itself seems to be a PDF.
It might be dual. We'll have to double check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a web page as well.
There is.
Yeah.
So one other topic for online spaces, and this is about our server room and the backup power, because we had a power outage in May that really caused us to think about how we maintain power to our server room. One of the things that we have in place now is what's called a UPC. It's an uninterruptible power supply, which is basically just enough power so that if we lose power at the district, we have enough time to safely shut down our servers and systems in the room during the outage, so that it doesn't just wipe out our computers and cause a lot of work for our IT to have to rebuild servers. So the problem with that is that once everything is shut down during the power outage, even the branches, which may still have power during a local outage at Peninsula Center, will lose their internet access because our server room is shut down, and our server room feeds our internet connections to the branches. So our IT department thought a good bit about what our options were for not having to power down, and what they came up with was tying into our backup generator that's on the roof of Peninsula Center, so that in the event of an outage, the same backup generator that powers our emergency lighting in the building could also power our server room. And you might be surprised at how well a library can function without power if it still has internet access, because you still are able to, we have many Chromebooks that we're able to check out to people. They could still get on a device, get on the internet, search the catalog. Those same Chromebooks can be used to check books in and out from the counter. In general, during the day, most of our libraries are well lit during an outage. If it is the evening time and we're on backup power, we may have to close down the library just because it's not safe in terms of having people in dark places. But for a library like Miralest, with all of these windows, if power went out during the day, we could very well just stay open and continue to function, especially if we had internet access. There would almost be very little difference in what we could offer, other than it might be slightly more dim in the building. So we're actively exploring that. We did have money in our budget for an upgraded UPC, one of those uninterruptible power supplies. And our IT department is hoping to instead spend that money toward running the requisite wires and cables to connect the power room. Still a lot of feasibility to look through with that, and budgeting to look through, but it would be a tremendous asset for the district. So let's look at physical spaces a bit. We did redesign our computer area at Peninsula Center a few months ago. Part of this redesign was taking the 20 public computer terminals that we had and reducing it to 10. What we were noticing was that people were sitting at our computer terminals with their own laptops and not logging in to the computers that are there. But instead, they were looking for a place where they could sit with power and work on their own device. So we reduced the number of computers from 20 to 10 and found that most of the time, and I'm talking about the vast majority of the time, we do not even fill up to 10 computers. If they do fill up, which is very rare, we do have a reservation system where you can put your name and get in line, and it's usually only a few minutes wait before you can get a computer. But we've only seen that happen a couple of times in the several months since this took place. What we do see fill up is all of these seats that are now available for people to get on their own devices. So it's been a very successful thing.
Didn't our little study cubicles have electricity?
Yes.
Yes. In fact, we have over 200 seats in the library with access to electricity. So there is a lot. But interestingly, there's a different kind of patron who likes to go up to the mezzanine and have a quiet area, and then there are people who like to do their work where the action is. So it's interesting. There are some people who enjoy being in the middle of things and around what's going on. We have, I think, a lot of patrons who come use these terminals who have come to know the people who are regulars that work around them, and they are a group of friends who have built community around this area, and they sit next to each other, and they'll even come in, and if somebody's sitting in the seat, they're like, wow, that's my seat. That's my buddy right there. That's not your buddy. But they accommodate and enjoy the space in that way.
So the 10 terminals you still have, are those basically the front catalog? Or
I believe those have been repurposed or recycled. Is that right? The 10 that we removed.
No. The 10 that remain.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
The 10 that
Are,
remain.
are those the ones we would use if we were going in to look at?
Absolutely. So those are the ones you can use your library card or a guest pass to log in. They're not the computer terminals that you just walk up to that are open to search the catalog.
That's what I was asking.
Okay.
Okay.
They're not
All right.
those. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So-
these are full service patron terminals.
Okay. But you have separate ones.
Yes,
They're
there are
separate
separate ones that are specifically for patrons.
These are connected to that nice new printer that we looked at, so patrons can print if they need to, or to work. So before we finish, I do want to talk about making our physical spaces welcoming. A big part of that is making them clean and safe. And I have to give kudos to our facilities manager, Gutierrez, and his entire team, because they do so much work every single day to make our spaces clean and safe, which makes them in turn welcoming. That includes things like washing, a lot of washing. There are a lot of windows. There are a lot of surfaces throughout the building, so this is continually going on. There's lots of washing, even some polishing here and there. We have some antique furniture that they keep in tip-top condition. We even got a comment in one of our surveys that said, I like sitting in a place where the furniture is 100 years old. And the reason it's 100 years old is because our facilities keep it in good condition. They do a lot of scrubbing. This is all on a cycle. Everything that looks so nice and clean is that way because it's in their cycle of duties that they do. Painting, obviously, a lot of detailing, updating, and painting that needs to go on around the district. Even lighting. This is right out here on the desk here at Mira Last, where they upgraded the lighting recently so that benches in the deck is well lit as the sun goes down. Restoring, updating. This is the security guardrail on top of Peninsula Center that was recently completely restored and repainted. Shampooing. I had to put this in there because stains tend to appear out of nowhere, and they disappear just as easily when our staff go up and shampoo all of the carpet. That's such a great machine. And and planting, of course, because our facilities department also makes sure that our grounds are beautiful and green. And speaking of green, I am thrilled to announce here that we are a certified green business from the California Green Business Network. And if I'm correct, I think we are the first library system in California to be certified a green business. Yeah. So nodding his head. So that's quite an accolade for us. And I know that Director Addington and Facilities Manager Gutierrez put in all of the legwork to make sure that we got our applications in and did whatever we needed throughout the district to make sure all three of our buildings qualified for the certification. So to close, I just want to say that we did participate earlier this year, late January, early February, in a initiative from the California State Library called Every Story Matters. This was basically a way to engage public library patrons and ask them how and why they use the library and whether they're satisfied and plan to return. These numbers here are the statewide numbers, especially that 93% of visitors at public libraries feel welcome. We were a tick higher than that. We were 94% for our library. And same for the 80%. We were a tick higher at 81% of our visitors plan to come back. But one of the things that really stood out to me about this survey, it was a very short survey with only 5 questions, and a lot of it was, how do you feel? What's important to you in the libraries? How do you feel about your library? So I wanted to put a few of the dozens and dozens of quotes that came through this survey and just recap them here to close out. This one I love. I like the feel of this library because I think it's part of going to a place where exploration and imagination is something that is a priority. It creates a feeling for a lot of people that, if it's instilled as a child, we see them again as adults saying, came here as a child. This place is magical. The space is warm and inviting. This is obviously one of our goals, and our team puts in a lot of work to make the space warm and inviting. The staff here are amazing. We love to hear that. We pride ourselves on wonderful customer service. And I think the staff here across the board make what's in this presentation work. So everything you've heard here today is because of the staff. We appreciate them so much in everything that they do. So many resources, someone wrote. We love to hear that. We want to provide as much as we can and in ways that people find useful. Always a wonderful experience. That's how we want you to leave. And finally, we always leave happy and wishing we could stay longer. So as I read all of these comments, I maybe it's because I was working on this presentation, but it felt like they naturally grouped into 4 categories, that they were either about the staff themselves and connecting with the staff or the customer service, or they were about our resources or what we have access to, what they use in the library, or they were about how they feel when they come in here and how they feel welcomed and that they belong and that there's a diverse collection and inclusivity, or they feel like they're inspired or they're on a journey or their imagination is activated while they're in the library. And obviously, we're circling back to the strategic priorities. So we do see this evidence in the comments from our patrons that they are connecting with the priorities that we have. So I'm going to close it out there, and certainly we're happy to take any questions that the board may have.
The quote, the comments that came in, were those part of, where did those come from?
So there was a survey that went out. It had an online component, or you could do it in paper.
The California.
Yes,
Library.
and we submitted it to the California Library. So that was here at our libraries, and we took the survey results there, submitted them to the California Library, who compiled them and sent us back.
Oh, the 81 versus the,
Yeah.
and we got a point higher than.
Yeah, so they sent us back a nice little PDF poster that said, you're doing great, and here's all your stats. And then they also sent us an Excel file with all of it. Very
Ryan,
Thank you, Ryan.
that was great. Quick question on the world languages thing.
Okay.
Could you remind us, what is the process for a patron to make recommendations?
It would
for
go
food
straight through
titles in the
our
collection?
website.
Yeah.
So there is a request a book link in our website at the top of the page under our services, I believe. And that goes straight to one of our librarians who routes it to whichever, if it was an adult book, it would go to the adult librarian in charge of those collections. And I want to say we order, I don't know the exact percentage, but the vast majority of patron recommendations, unless it was a rare book or a book that just wasn't published by a reputable publisher or something like that. If it's a book that's published by a reputable publisher and it's not something that's in our collection that gets recommended, we almost certainly would buy that book.
It's the same process for the world languages.
Exactly. Yep. We do have to get those through a special vendor because often we get those books shipped over to us from other countries. So our technical services manager, Mary Kochman, will order those requests specifically from an international book dealer that we work with to get those.
Thank you so much for that presentation.
I have a
Yes.
something to add. I thank you so much.
Sure.
This is very helpful, and I hope this presentation isn't just for us, because I feel that the public would benefit so much. And part of my presentation later about the ALA, one of the points that one of the libraries made was to share the progress of the strategic plan so that it's not just a static thing that sits on the website. It's like, well, what happened to that? And so to maybe even add this, you modify it as needed, but to make it shareable. Is that possible?
It'll be on YouTube tomorrow, which is great. But also certainly the slides and speaking about not static, we'll update this presentation and we'll have it regularly. But also we do work with our staff, and this is a little more internal, so that especially at the end of every fiscal year, where we'll look back at what we've done in the previous year and what we're doing forward in the light of our strategic plan, which I think is something that our staff find helpful. And I think I've heard a lot of feedback from our managers that our strategic priorities and objectives are guideposts for them when they start planning their own department plan. So I think there's that duality there. There's the work we do on the back end, and then presenting that out to the public. So hopefully people will view this recording, and we'll continue to look for ways to share these stories out. And I know that as we look toward getting a communication specialist at the library, that'll be part of our marketing effort.
And that helps us when we talk to patrons about
Absolutely.
the new things that are happening. It's the library is not just about books, but it's also about
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. Item number 12, we're going to consider the renewal of a legal services contract with the firm of Liebert Cassidy Whitmore. So, Director Addington,
Thank you very much. So in your agenda, you have a memo from Sarah Uden Armstrong, our Human Resources Manager, and this is a consideration for the renewal of the Liebert Cassidy Whitmore contract. I won't read the entire thing, but basically we have been under contract with Liebert Cassidy Whitmore as our labor council through a subscription to their South Bay Training Consortium. We've been a member for several years, but it does require an annual contract that gets renewed. She's listed in here in comparing the contract to last year. The only significant changes to note are in cost. The overall subscription cost has increased by $195, and the varying attorney and consultant hourly rates have increased anywhere from $15 to $50. There have been minor updates in descriptions for group training, Section 2A, and in their artificial intelligence in Section 8, but neither of these changes impacts services. The contract itself is attached. Hopefully you had a chance to review it. The fee for July 1, 2026 to June 30, 2027 is $4,550. And unfortunately, a $100 late fee payment because we will be signing this after August 1st. Unfortunately, when we received the contract, we had chosen as a board to not have a July meeting. Otherwise, it would have gone to the July meeting. But because we did get delay, there's a very small $100 late fee, but we felt that that was completely appropriate in order to bring it to the full board for consideration. So the recommended action from staff is that the Board of Library Trustees approves this South Bay Consortium contract from Liebert Cassidy Whitmore from July 1 of 2026 to June 30th, 2027 for $4,550 plus a $100 late fee payment. I will go off memo and say that we have been working with Liebert Cassidy Whitmore now for several years. One of the things that they provide is this consortium, which no other organization has that we've looked into. And we do utilize that quite a bit. We're able to send a question and get a reliable answer back. Of course, if they have to really dig in, then the fees go up. They start putting it towards maybe our own representative, Mark Meyerhoff. But even with Mark, Mark's been with us for many years now. He understands some of the history of what we've done, kind of what we've what we've negotiated in our various MOUs, how we operate as an organization. So the staff feel very strongly that we would like to stick with Liebert Cassidy Whitmore, and we provide their contract for your review.
Are there any questions with regard to the contract?
I do have a very minor comment. Given our history with Liebert Cassidy and the fact that we didn't have a board meeting, would it be possible to ask for a waiver of the $100 fee? And is that worth pursuing just as a business proposal?
I think you've hit upon both things. We did actually ask for a waiver already, and we kind of laid out all of those things. Well, what about this and what about that? And, you know, it comes out late and blah, blah, blah. I think there's, you know, a difference between the billing department and everyone else. And in the grand scheme of things, we opted that it wasn't really worth it that much to make a big deal about it. So,
well, I appreciate you telling
me that. we did the same exact thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised they didn't give us a bit more of a window.
More of a window.
The letter came in anyway. So, are there other questions about the renewal proposal here?
I would just say that maybe we take that into account next year when we decide whether we go dark in June or July. But I was actually surprised at the fees being lower than I would have expected, to be honest with you.
The subscription.
Yeah. So I would move that we accept the contract.
Okay. Are you making the motion? Great. Very good. Motion made by Secretary Wittenberry. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. It passes unanimously. Now moving on to our second of three action items tonight. The approval of policy number 2020.7 with regards to artificial intelligence. Again, Director Addington.
Thank you very much. Again, in your packet, you do have a memo, but I'll read some of this, but I'll also open the floor to our Deputy Director, who, is on the AI task force with me as well. So over the past several months, the PVLD staff AI task force has been working to develop a thoughtful framework for the responsible use of artificial intelligence in our workplace. So as part of this effort, the task force surveyed staff to better understand our current AI usage, our overall perceptions of AI, perceived benefits and concerns, training needs, and what staff believed should be included in an AI policy. The task force researched AI policies and guidelines from other libraries and organizations, and we relied heavily on the American Library Association's guidance on the use of artificial intelligence in libraries in developing our own staff AI usage guidelines. So the policy that we are presenting today is intentionally brief. It establishes the district's commitment to the responsible use of AI while formally recognizing the American Library Association's guidance, the PVLD staff AI usage guidelines as the operational framework for AI use within the district. I've attached the staff AI usage guidelines for your information so you can see what we're talking about. But we are not requiring, or I should say not requesting, formal board approval of the guidelines themselves, as we believe those should remain flexible and adaptable. We want to be able to move if something changes, which it will in the world of AI. AI is evolving rapidly, and maintaining the guidelines as an administrative document will allow us to kind of update them as technology, best practices, and legal considerations continue to change without requiring the board's approval for each and every revision. So if we were to adopt this policy, a copy of which is attached, staff would implement the guidelines thoughtfully and intentionally. And this will include providing the employees with access to professional development opportunities, because one of the things that we did hear from our staff was that they just didn't really know a lot about AI. including AI courses and resources offered through recognized libraries and professional organizations to help ensure that they understand and use AI responsibly, ethically, and effectively. And so we believe that this is kind of the best approach. The policy itself, and for the listening audience, I will read it, it is not long, would simply say, and it would fall in under 2020.7, artificial intelligence. This is in our policy underneath things like our freedom to read, our policy about Patriot Act, these kind of broad concepts that guide how the library operates. And it would read, the Palos Verdes Library District recognizes that artificial intelligence, AI, offers opportunities to enhance workplace efficiency, innovation, and service delivery, while also presenting established risks related to accuracy, privacy, security, intellectual property, and ethical use. The district is committed to the responsible and transparent use of AI technologies. The Palos Verdes Library District acknowledges guidance from the American Library Association's guidance on the use of artificial intelligence in libraries and adheres to the AI staff usage guidelines that govern the use of artificial intelligence by district employees. The district uses artificial intelligence in a manner that values human decision-making, supports the district's mission, protects confidential information, and complies with applicable laws and district policies, and upholds the professional values of librarianship. I will say that this policy was crafted by the entire AI task force. So we really were very intentional about the overarching concept being, we understand AI exists. We understand there are benefits. We understand there are challenges. And it is our mission to utilize AI in a transparent and effective way. And if you look at the staff AI usage guidelines that are attached, we've taken the time to say, these are our values and our commitments. This is what we believe in. And this is how we think employees should move forward. It does not say no AI. It says with accountability, with understanding the sustainability of it, with prioritizing equity and accessibility, and ensuring that patrons have equal access to services and resources. So we've tried to acknowledge the how we want to see our employees utilizing AI, and then adding a fairly broad policy that feeds back to these guidelines that we can change if and when the world around AI changes. So our hope this evening, we have presented to you the guidelines that we crafted, and we'll be sharing with our staff, a policy that we hope you can adopt so that we can establish that PVLD is in fact recognizing AI and its implications in the workplace. So you have a recommended action to approve the policy 2020.7 artificial intelligence as presented. But of course, myself and Deputy Director Roy are here to answer any questions and expand any section of it further if needed or desired.
I have a question.
Sure.
The guidance on the use, when I click that link, it takes me to just the fact that there's a motion or something, and the ALA has adopted the guidelines, but the guidelines themselves aren't there.
The ALA guidelines?
Yeah. So if you click that link that's in the board packet, it takes us to work completed by the working group, action item 1, a resolution to affirm the ALA's guidance, but then there's no guideline.
No link to it?
There doesn't seem to be any link.
Mine worked.
Yours work? Does it go to a 2-pager though?
Yeah, 2 pages.
But it doesn't have, those aren't guidelines.
Oh, the work, it just talks
Oh,
about
just
the
the
work completed.
resolution to.
Yeah, it's just
Now
a resolution.
The ALA guidelines are 17 pages. It's a 17-page PDF file. The
Okay.
ALA guidelines.
I don't
It
know.
must be that the link that's in the packet is looking at the wrong page, but we can
Mhm.
send that out as a,
Yeah.
or, and you can also Google
I was
ALA
just gonna say,
guidance.
if you do a
ALA,
search on
okay.
ALA,
AI
ALA,
guideline.
yeah, American ALA guidance on the use of AI.
Okay.
There it is.
This is it. Okay.
So apologies for that, and apologies to anybody who was looking online. Um, I think the link might have been correct.
So just
in the background, right? That's not so.
Yeah, that's just in the memo.
that's just
It's just in the memo,
It's
yeah.
just in the memo. So the guidelines for the staff are adapted from the ALA guidelines.
Yeah. So what was essential in the ALA guidelines is the fact that AI is here. It's a technology that's going to infiltrate the information technology and information retrieval. It's going to be in libraries, and it's part of our professional responsibility to use it with the values that belong to libraries and belong to our profession. And those are the same values that we see listed in what's being proposed as the language that we adopt for our policy. It's the accuracy, the privacy, security, intellectual property, ethical use. So what ALA is basically saying, and they spend 17 pages to say this,
Yeah.
but they go very in depth into certain things like collection development and working with vendors and things that we don't want to be as specific in our guidance for staff, but we want our guidelines to be able to shape those decisions. We want to define the values that we are espousing and the values that are consistent with our profession and that ALA is espousing as well. And we want to say to our staff, here's what you need to do if you plan to use AI. You need to understand what the opportunities and threats are. You need to have taken the training. You need to understand how you will be held accountable for using AI, what you can't do in terms of using AI, which is basically for our purposes, is it's already in our policy that staff cannot add computer applications to any of the district's computers. So if it's not something that has been provided to our staff through our Google Workspace or our various applications, or it's not already readily accessible online like ChatGPT, it is not something they can put on their computer as part of our policy. So it really what it's defining is what are the ethical concerns? What are all of the opportunities and threats? What you need to be able to access in terms of training in order to be well versed in all of these things. And that basically you are accountable for protecting these values like privacy and security of information and for understanding what's confidential and what's not confidential. And it even says in our, if you're not sure, don't put it in there. Go and ask, a supervisor and make sure you understand that before you enter information into and like an AI chatbot. So we've been working on this for several months in terms of our AI task force, which is 9 staff members. And we basically went through a lot of other policies that are out there, but we use the American Library Association's AI guidelines as our main guidepost in creating our own. So the themes are similar between the two, and what we hope to recognize in this policy is both the fact that we use that as a guidepost, but also that for our staff, this is the document that we're going to recognize that guides AI use in the district.
And I will say, we had some really incredibly robust conversations about this. By no means did where everybody was pro AI. Very, very definitely a strong mix employee AI and used it quite a lot. Others who are very, very even like us really thinking a place. So we had some really robust conversations around this. And yet, when it was all said and done, I think we all felt pretty comfortable with a document that laid out our values and informed employees how they should be thinking about using this potentially problematic tool. And I say tool because that is absolutely what we think of it as. It is a tool. It is a tool that needs to be double checked and triple checked. And how you use it, you really need to take responsibility for in what manner and acknowledge that. We're not saying you can't use an AI platform at the reference desk to help answer a question, but you need to acknowledge where that information came from. But we did that, and we've been doing that ever since the internet came out. When everybody suddenly was going to Wikipedia, we all were trained. You can start with Wikipedia, but you have to double check it. And this is another one of those tools.
Just there is a point to the anecdote. So, our company just did a release of information that they rehired about 350 veteran engineers, and they call it their Graybeard Rehire Project. And basically what it was is that a lot of these guys, they laid off, they bought them out. Mm-hmm. And basically they thought that AI was going to take their jobs. Mm-hmm. Well, evidently they didn't understand what AI could do and couldn't do. Mm-hmm. And they had to hire back the humans. Mm-hmm. And they've decided that hiring back the humans has probably saved the corporation about $1 billion in 2026 alone. And I think that this is the key point. AI is such a vague terminology. Mm-hmm. Number one, in what application are we using AI? Do we understand what it can and cannot do? Mm-hmm. And like any other tool, how do you use it? Right. Do you use it for good or use it for evil? Mm-hmm. So I think
we use it for good.
Yeah. So I think that all we're doing is just doing a framework of just reminding people this is happening around you. Don't be ignorant, just understand what is going on around you and how it could potentially affect your work. Like you say, in the beginnings of the internet, mm-hmm. you see a picture on the screen, it must be real, right? Mm-hmm. No. So it's just a awareness framework.
There was an AI expert at ALA, and I think he was saying that AI is like Microsoft Word was when it first came out. Like it was just revolutionary, new, and people had to get used to it. Some people never learned it. And also he said when you ask whether to use AI or not, you would have to ask yourself, to what end? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, it's not evil, it's not for evil, but like, what are you trying to accomplish, and to be mm-hmm. transparent about it?
Mm-hmm. Well, right. To give you an example, a friend of mine, he and I have like a older kid brother relationship, and he sent me this letter and says, "What do you think about it?" And I looked at it and says, "Who wrote this piece of?" And he says, "Well, what's wrong with it?" He says, "Do you realize in paragraph 2, you gave your landlord unilateral rights to raise your rent with no ceiling mm-hmm. at any time?" Mm-hmm. And then he admitted that he
had AI rights.
Yeah. And I basically said, so here's the thing. I know why you gave it to me, because you wanted me to be the human to prove the work. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that you came up with this because you abdicated your thinking mm-hmm. to the machine. And I think that's all we're really saying. Don't abdicate your thinking to the machine.
I will say this, Jennifer, because mm-hmm. we have been struggling with this at CSUDH and trying to write mm-hmm. university AI policies and how can they be used in class and all of that. So I was very impressed with the job you did here, because I know how difficult it is to write an AI policy. And I was very pleased with the guidelines, emphasizing really over and over again that a human needs to use their brain. They need to look at it. They need to be the last word, and that it is just a tool. So I'm really pleased with what you wrote in the policy, and thank you for all the work and thought that went into it, because I'm sure it wasn't.
Well, I will absolutely pass that on to the staff because it was a group effort. I mean, we really came together and, like I said, from very, very different initial standpoints, but with one goal. One goal was to, like, what can we give the staff that allows them to utilize it to do what they need to do in their own departments.
Great. Kudos to the task force.
Very much so.
At this point, can I have a motion to approve policy 2020.7? AI. Motion made by Vice President Wong. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I know the staff will be very happy.
Great. Thanks for their efforts.
Yeah.
That's along our gratitude for that. Now, an update to policy number 8050.1, Government Relations Liaison. Once again, Director Addington.
Thank you. And I'm happy to start this conversation, but I will also call upon Secretary Wittenberry to, to augment anything and everything that I say here. You have a memo in your packet, and basically, Secretary Wittenberry attended the California Special Districts Association Leadership Conference and had a very insightful, I think, comment about our legislative advocacy efforts and maybe in particularly the government relations liaison. And one of the things that she shared was that it was, in fact, good governance practice for special districts to really clearly establish that in our policy around taking legislative positions and advocacy, that it is only under the direction of the full board, that no one single trustee should be advocating their own opinion on the board. If the board opted to take a position on something going on in the legislative world, it would be a board, not a single trustee. I will memo I wrote that Secretary Wittenberry mentioned this at the July meeting. That is my error. Apologies. Of course, it was the June board meeting because we were done. So apologies for that now. But so then Secretary Wittenberry trying to establish like what we as the our policy, and we came up with some edits to policy 8050.1, the government relations liaison. Rather than creating a whole new legislative advocacy policy, we opted to just make some changes to that one. So you do have a red line version, and in the red line, you see the board itself, or the board policy itself, 8050.0. And where we've made the changes are in C. We've added the phrase or the wording after a majority vote of the Board of Library Trustees to authorize legislative advocacy on an individual legislative issue. Then the person can contact legislators as appropriate to advocate for PVLD's position. So again, just kind of reinforcing that you must have a vote of the full board. And then we added a brand new section E, and I'll make a correction in this one as well, or at least a suggestion. The current suggestion is no government relations liaison or trustee. So really anybody, you're not hearing me. Okay. So really anybody on the board, whether it's the government relations liaison or any trustee, they may not advocate on behalf of the library for a position different than what the majority of the board authorized by majority vote, nor may any government relations liaison or trustee advocate on behalf of the library district for any position regarding a legislative issue which the board has not addressed by majority vote. So it may seem a little repetitive, but I think it just furthers and really reinforces what we were trying to say, which is no one, not a trustee or even the government relations liaison, can take, advocate, share, promote an opinion that the board has not made together. We do not speak, the trustees do not speak as individuals. And just as a small correction, just for consistency, you'll see that I've said may advocate on behalf of the library, lowercase, and then later I say library district, uppercase. Just for consistency, I would say library district, uppercase for both of them. I welcome Secretary Wittenberry to offer her thoughts on this as well, but I thought it was a really good idea. I think it's a smart thing to just clarify so that going forward, any trustee or government relation, I will say it, relations liaison will kind of understand their role.
So I'll just augment that by saying that when I was at the leadership training, they flat out said that we should have a legislative advocacy policy, which we do not have. In discussing that with Jennifer, she felt we could make these changes to the part that relates to just our legislative relations liaison. I'm not 100% convinced that that complies with the edict I heard at the training, but I do see that it would be very repetitive to have the same language in two different places. I will also say, because of the way it was just presented, that E should not be taken to quash personal rights of free speech, right? So in our non-trustee personal individual capacities, of course, we can say whatever we want. This is just that we can't say it as a trustee relating to advocating for the library district. So I think that's clear if you read it. I just wanted to make that point out loud.
Yeah.
And given all of that, I would highly encourage a yes vote on this amendment to the policy.
I don't mind having this codified. And I'm not suggesting that this is a solution looking for a problem. Just out of curiosity, in your memory, because in my memory, I can't think of an instance that we ever come to be going close to a problem.
No, thankfully, no.
Okay.
But I think good governance, you know, when we see a hole, let's see if we can maybe fix it.
Yeah. Well, you know, you never know. Somebody could get ambitious. So it's
Well, we wouldn't want that.
Well, obviously, other special districts have had issues, and that's why it came up. So I'm grateful we have not, but
Correct.
It's good to do what we are being to do.
So, for example, when there was the Freedom to Read Act, and there was somebody as the government liaison or one of us representing the library at some event, and we're talking about that freedom to read. So, would we be able to talk about that without having consent from the board that we all felt the same way on this position?
I believe we can, because the freedom to read is literally part of our philosophy. If you look at the board policies, there are fundamental philosophies that are in our policy, and those include the right of information, the Freedom to Read Act. It literally says we adhere to the Freedom to Read Act, the Intellectual Freedom Act. I think there's a couple in there.
Yeah, Patriot. I mean, but it also outlines
like it very clearly says that. I don't think so anything that's listed there, I think we have that is fundamentally listed in our policies that we believe in that.
And has been voted on.
And has been voted on by the board. I think this is more when they talk about wildfire abatement or something. You know, you can't come and say, well, yes, the library would absolutely be on the side of this or that. Well, you don't know that. That hasn't been brought up to the board. But something fundamental that's part of our philosophy, those things that have been agreed upon and voted on, I think those we absolutely can speak to.
And I think that it's a function of knowing what hat you're wearing at the time. Because, for an example, when we go to CSDA legislative days, and we go to help lobby for CSDA.
Mhm.
Well, the thing about it is that when we're basically lobbying with our legislators, we're not, for example, I'm not representing per se PBLD. I just happen to be a PBLD trustee who on this particular moment is representing CSDA. And CSDA is advocating for something.
I would say yes, because they're not asking you to take a position.
Yeah.
You're saying on behalf of the California Special Districts Association, we are, opposing this bill or supporting this bill or,
Yeah.
sponsoring this bill.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, let's say, for example, I can't imagine it happening because it's never happened in 12, 13 years. But let's say for a moment, PB News says, "Hey, Kingston, you're a trustee. What do you think about, the school district asking to pass a bond?" Well, the thing about it is, are you asking me, Kingston, or are you asking me as a trustee?
Well, I think then you just clarify in your answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking on behalf of the library, but my personal opinion.
Mhm. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? I have a motion to approve the updates to policy number 8050.1
So moved.
as presented. Motion made by Secretary Wittenberry. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No, any opposed? Nope.
No.
Great. All right. Trustee Easton has an informative presentation for us about her
Yes.
participation at ALA conference this summer.
Yes. I had the great privilege of attending ALA 150. It's the 150th anniversary of the beginning of ALA in Chicago, and attended many, many sessions. But I wanted to present on 4 that had some lessons or messages for the trustees and the board. So I'll try to go through them pretty quickly. And I made a bunch of notes, and I'm glad I took notes because this was in June and a lot has happened since June. So the first panel I attended that was relevant to our work was called Government and Community Leadership, a library's role. And there was a panel of library directors across the country who talked about how libraries need to take a leadership role in their communities and with their elected officials, and to have a voice in local in the local community. I think the biggest takeaway from this session for me was, and we had talked about this at another meeting, is have we identified all the stakeholders in the library that we need to make sure we include as a voice in the library. They suggested making a Venn diagram of stakeholders, making sure we sit at tables that nurture broader trust in our community, and continue to nurture relationships, taking one relationship at a time, and developing that as deeply as possible. And also, people need to continue to hear the library's stories. And so as a leader, libraries taking a leadership role is really conveying what we're doing at the library. And that is a form of advocacy, obviously. What Deputy Director Roy, presented today is a perfect example of what we can take as a message of the library stories. They also mentioned that perhaps a director's role vis-a-vis trustees is to present a robust sort of orientation on this topic. Training, they suggested training and transparency on how we could be better community leaders. Maybe an education or communications committee could be established to further our education in this regard. And maybe there's some opportunity there with the communication specialist to collaborate on sharing library stories. And so that was the government and community leadership session. Another session I attended was Advocacy for All, Building Inclusive Voices for Lasting Impact. This was a panel, just two individuals, a library director and an executive director, talked about how advocacy is a shared responsibility among staff, trustees, friend groups, and patrons. For example, for staff, front desk is advocacy. You're talking to a patron. Sometimes it's the only person that patron talks to all day. Advocacy for trustees could be taking these library stories out into the community. But sometimes trustees are wary of maybe saying the wrong thing. We need help with words to say. They were promoting training through UFL, for example, having a trustee advocacy toolkit when we were talking about legislative advocacy earlier. Simple scripts, in-service trustee training. One library had a trustee banquet with guest speakers, and they got to invite people. And encouraging patrons also, how can they become advocates? It's sharing their library story. And a simple storytelling technique, and this was very interesting for me, is what was the need? How did the library help? And what changed? And just those three things, asking patrons or relaying those stories of what did they need and how did they get it in the library? How did that change their lives, really? Because numbers tell a story, but people tell the rest. And the stories need to accompany the data. So their proposed action plan was just build one relationship at a time, collect stories intentionally, and to show up at events consistently. That's really advocacy. So another session was foundation and library collaborations. There was a panel of ALA and Chicago Public Library leaders, including Deborah Doyle was there, who gave us our session training. They talked about how foundations and libraries can collaborate to obtain mutual goals. These are all things that we are aware of, but to be a coalition, maybe to have annual meetings together, know what we should brag about. It's really important. Again, the storytelling just kept coming up over and over again. Tell the library story, get the message of the library out to the community. One recommendation was to take 5 minutes a week to talk to somebody in your community to build trust. Have library leadership, staff, and friends get together in the same room to learn together. And then the last session I thought was the most interesting, called Strategic Planning Reimagined AI and Gamification in Public Libraries. I don't know if you've heard of the Pueblo City County Library Project, what they did and how they came up with their strategic plan. I have their strategic plan here. I can share, and it's also downloaded, so I could share it with you from the. But I'll pass it around this way. They they describe not only what the plan is, but how they arrived at the plan. So Pueblo City County Library is interesting because it's a special district library, 7 members. I talked to one of the board members who was there at the conference. And what they did was they had the library staff, foundation members, and trustees and other library partners use AI and gamification to create its strategic plan for 2026 to 30. AI helped supercharge the work, but they kept the human element, which is what we were talking about earlier, without the need of a consultant. So they were trying to avoid hiring a consultant and do everything in-house. So the first speaker was the foundation executive director, asking how could we do this ourselves, make it more equitable, improve staff feedback. And the library used AI-assisted tools to analyze trends, community input from surveys, and internal metrics. Fed it into AI and
got some feedback.
some feedback, and then
it will tell you what you could do,
and then analyzed it. And then they had a retreat, a strategic planning retreat, 40 people, stakeholders, and they used gamification. They came up. Participants were assigned fictionalized branches, and based on real libraries, and they had a fun and imaginative dialogue about things happening in a fictitious community to assess what community needs are and to generate strategic objectives without bias. So when you're in this setting and you're not talking about your own library, but you're talking about a fictional library with so many patrons and these issues and the data, what can we do to uphold our mission and to do good, to come up with the strategic plan for this district. So the focus was not historical or personal, but became more objective that way. They had mixed groups at tables, trustees, friends. There was digital learning and data-driven communication engagement. And then the second speaker was the deputy director of the library who was in the session. What they were seeking was to break a pattern. What if the planning process itself is part of the problem? So what they did was the gamification part is to make it objective. And staff that never really worked together, talked together, compared priorities, and found their voice because they were not being asked to defend anything. Library is an ideal place to demonstrate how to use AI in its own processes. So I thought that was really interesting. In this way, libraries. So I think the main takeaway is sort of transparency of how libraries are using AI in its own practices. And as you said, as we talked about earlier, is to publish these, to be transparent, to publish our findings and how we're coming up with these findings from our students. So, so that process sounded fascinating. And and they won, the library won an award for this. They won the what was it? Library Journal Star Award.
Oh, sure.
They got a Star Award. And also they have an AI policy. And I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm happy to share it with you. Just to give it to your, and knowing that this library used AI to come up with their strategic plan to see what their AI policy looks like might be interesting. But it was just a fascinating study and of AI in practice and using gamification. I didn't even know that was really a thing, but I think it's using outside the game world in corporate settings and library settings and education settings. So I learned a lot at this conference. It was wonderful. So
Oh.
thank you for allowing me to be a representative to the
Was it as well attended as other past conferences you've seen?
15,000 people. I don't know how many hundreds of sessions there were. There were maybe 2,500 exhibitors. And you went to the one in San Diego, so you know, sort of. And obviously, the crazy,
ALA is a big
a big one, but really very inspiring,
good.
motivating,
Yeah.
a great place to learn what libraries are doing nationally. And because we live in a bubble,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we are here, and it's nice to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so it was great. Yeah,
Very cool.
thank you.
I enjoyed meeting the international folks at the ALA conference because it does attract a lot of interested parties from abroad.
And I noticed a pattern with the world languages and the international librarians. So I'm glad we're, learning about or expanding the world collection. Now, I don't know if you have this Knight Foundation North Public Library survey findings, but there's a report on a survey about libraries. You have to have a password and download a bunch of stuff. So I thought I'd share it with.
So, but
We'll
take
take a look. Oh, it said something on the back.
93% of Americans who say cuts to local public library services would impact their community.
Mm-hmm.
There was another interesting reflection or activity that one of the libraries did was how much would they had a chart, after accumulating all this data, how much money would you save by going to your local library and having a chart at the front of every library? There were thousands of dollars by utilizing.
I've seen many libraries do that, sort of like what do we bring you in a tangible value?
Yeah.
If you were to buy that book, if you
Yeah.
were to buy that movie.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Were you able to go to the Obama Center?
I was. Oh, it wasn't. There was it was sold out.
Yeah, of course.
Like the minute
registration
was available, but I snuck out on one of the days and went alone. And the tickets were sold out until November for the center itself, but the library is part of the Chicago City Library System.
Oh, really?
The Obama Library, and it's
So
part
you
of
could
the
go.
center. So
Oh.
I just went right in, and it was amazing. It was really the garden.
Cool.
It was very cool.
One other thing about ALA, apparently it's not coming back to California until 2033.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
California, I think, is too expensive.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
I mean,
They're going
Chicago's
to-
not cheap, but they've got
They've got a system.
they've
down.
got a system in Chicago. It's been in Chicago
be.
many.
Going to be there twice in the next
Yeah.
6 years before they come back.
Where next?
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
New Orleans.
Conventions are
Wow.
very interesting business.
Mm-hmm.
It is an interesting business.
I mean, you
a
got
bad house.
well, you got to make sure that there's a draw.
Mm-hmm.
It's got an airport. It's got enough hotel rooms.
Right.
It's
It had
got enough-
shuttles from like 10 hotels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a whole logistical thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the
McCormick Center
Is it a Marriott?
Marriott
Yeah.
thing.
Mm.
It's the big
and
convention center.
It's located north of the city. Yeah. North of the city.
Mm.
So you have to shuttle into city center. But I stayed at one of the hotels in the city center. So I had to shuttle to the site.
Right.
But
Mm.
that's okay. I'd rather be in Chicago
Yeah.
than the convention.
Thank you very much for the report.
Yeah. Thank you.
Director Addington, you have 2 months worth of
I do.
monthly reports.
I'll be succinct. You have my full written reports in your packet, so I'll just highlight a few things. First of all, way back on June 6th, we had our very first PVLD Con into the library verse.
Mm.
This was our kickoff event. So kicking off the summer reading program, we had costumes, crafts, Legos, Star Wars lightsaber demonstrations. We had anime art. We had trivia. We had movie score music. We had a mask rave. There were snacks, and of course, summer reading challenge signups. I think it really showcased the creativity of the staff and the enthusiasm of everybody to kind of like get the summer reading program kicked off. Of course, like any big event, you learn what you did right, what worked, what you'd make a few changes. In fact, just this week, the young adult and young readers and adult services department put out a survey to the staff, just saying, what worked, what didn't, what do you think we could do different next year? So I know they're gonna push the boat out on this one, but really kudos to the entire staff who organized that, because it was a lot of fun and there was a lot of really cool things going on. So as you go through my report for June, you'll see just some of the highlighting of new programs that we're doing: our conversation club, the AAPI short film screening, another sharing of the plant swap that Ryan was talking about. We had a wonderful reptile safari, bug event. I mean, just all kinds of really fun events going on, and highlighting the hydro farms as well and the great job that those have been doing at the branches. We're very pleased that the governor continued to support the California State Parks passes in his budget, so that will continue. Unfortunately, nobody will get any more than what we have now, but at least the ones that we have will continue to be funded, so we can continue that program, which is a really wonderful opportunity. Highlighting some of the great work that the facilities team has done, because they've just, again, done a phenomenal job. And I put a photo of you, I hope you don't mind, that you attended. You're like, where is that?
Yeah.
That you attended the American Library Association annual conference. Because I think it's good for the community to know that we're out there attending conferences and expanding our horizons as well. So in June, we did have a staff pay it forward award, and our recipient for the month of June was Brenda Siebert, our senior administrative assistant and passport supervisor. So we've highlighted Brenda, some of the wonderful things about her from last month's or the previous month's recipient, Yaya, and just want to say a big congratulations to Brenda. Moving into July, again, we continue to talk about the summer reading program, because really that has been like it for the whole summer. How many kids are getting logs? How many are actually registering? How many are actually completing it? Giving out a log is basically like handing out a flyer in some ways, but it's how many of the kids, teens, and adults actually then register and go through and complete it. And I just got some final numbers this last week. I think it was on Wednesday. And we are at like over 90% of the people who registered actually completed the whole entire thing. So it's that completion rate. It's those numbers where we may have handed out 1,000, but if 400 kids are doing the program and complete the program, that's just amazing. So we'll have some final numbers in my next report, but I think that's just been doing a really awesome job. Also want to highlight some of the programming from our dementia conversations, our Slide FX, wonderful trombone ensemble that came, and the Spice Odyssey. I shared with the board earlier, and we will be doing some promotion through social media of the Spice Odyssey program was actually filmed by RPV TV. Little interview with one of our librarians before it started. They filmed the whole entire project or program. They interviewed the chef who was featured in the program and kind of had a wrap up by our librarian again. And they will be airing that on RPV TV. So just another kind of amazing way that our own library programs actually become something that the community can watch. So that's really exciting. Highlighting a lot of the programs, it was a summer of programs. There was a lot going on. We had kids everywhere. We had adults doing all kinds of wonderful things. The dinosaurs at the library over at Malaga Cove was so cool because they had one of those super extra life-size puppet dinosaurs that somebody walks around in. And it was like looking over everybody's shoulder. It was really, really good. So circulation was doing well. ILL is doing well. Highlighted some of the work again that the facilities department has done. And noting also that our archivist, Monique Sugimoto, coordinated the unveiling of the Malaga Cove Plaque Historic District, his Plaza Historic District Plaque. So the Malaga Cove Plaza was designated a historic site several years ago, but they couldn't really establish any place to put the plaque. And they finally did. And Monique really worked with the Olmsteds and with the historic foundation, and was really an integral part of finding that area and getting that installed. So just again, the library taking in some, as you said, that leadership role in the community and ensuring that another organization gets the recognition that they deserve for being a historic site. So calling that out. We have a new tutoring service, Homework California, powered by tutor.com, but it's a wonderful, it was replacing BrainFuse. It's a wonderful program that offers 24/7 live tutoring in English and Spanish, homework help, one of those services that kids and parents really, really enjoy and utilize. So we're happy to see that come back, or a version of that come back with BrainFuse going away. And then I did want to highlight that PVLD offers an incredibly warm welcome to Kathy Caesars, the new development director for the Peninsula Library Friends Foundation. So we did have hosting a bagel and coffee event. Very happy to have her on board. And so far we've had a couple of wonderful meetings and great conversations. Really looking forward to the foundation being kind of an integral part of what we do, especially as we start looking at our 100th anniversary events, how they can facilitate that. Also added a photo of several of our trustees attending, as was mentioned earlier, the 70th anniversary celebration of the Palos Verdes Peninsula Chamber of Commerce. So it was beautiful, beautiful evening. Very happy to see everybody there. And I think it was another wonderful way for us to be out in the community and getting to know people, having them see our faces. In July, we did not have a Pay It Forward winner. We just celebrated Brenda again. And we'll have our next Pay It Forward winner will be in my next report.
Very good. Now for a foundation report, Director Addington and Deputy Director.
I'll keep it pretty simple. The foundation actually went dark in August, so they had no meeting. Prior to that, I'm continuing my ongoing meetings with Susan Paul, their president, and we of course talk about the facility issues, the plaza, the Malaga Cove possible patio, the roof, some of those capital projects that they're generously offering to support us with a donation for. Talking about the paver engraved paver program. We actually have a meeting next week to continue exploring that, how that looks, getting some samples made. We did receive the furniture for the patio, the new entryway. We have it just under lock and key for now because we don't want to utilize it until we can put it out and actually make that a special unveiling. So, but everything's working along very well. Again, very excited to have Kathy, and it's continuing to work, and I think have a really successful relationship with the foundation.
Good. Thank you. Okay, Community Relations Committee report, Secretary Wittenberry and Trustee Easton.
Well, I don't have anything.
Most of it's been touched on already. Again, we went to the 70th anniversary of the chamber celebration, and everyone was there but Rosa, who was out of town. And it was wonderful, as I already mentioned. I also, as was mentioned previously too, went to the introduction of Kathy Caesar to the library. I really wanted her to know that the trustees were there and happy to have her on board. And I had personally worked with her before at Tuberman, so I already feel like I have a relationship with her. So I'm happy about that. And you left out the most important part, though. I mean, I think you mentioned bagels, but there were cookies from Florence Bakery.
There were
at that event, so you all missed out. Didn't go. But no, Kathy seems very happy to be be there, and I think it's going to be a good thing.
Thank you. And as for government relations liaison report, I don't think there's anything for that tonight.
There was nothing shared with me, and as far as I know, at least right now, we're not advocating for anything in particular
Right.
from CSD.
Okay. Items for future agendas.
So the September meeting, at least for right now, is fairly late. I mean, things obviously come up. We'll continue to have a facility update. We are looking at a couple more policy, possible either creations or updates. Kind of, I'm exploring some ideas with Secretary Wittenberry. But as of right now, it's mostly updates. I don't have any action items that I know.
Is there anything else that anyone would like to bring up for future agenda?
Just a mild curiosity. Do we know if any organization is going to be sponsoring any type of forum, discussion, debate for our candidates for library trustee?
Yes. The American Association of University Women and the League of Women Voters will be sponsoring a forum on October 3rd,
Okay.
I believe.
October 19th.
Is it 19th? Oh, apologies. October 19th. It will be at the Peninsula Center Library in the community room from 7 to 9. And yeah, we'll put out more information about it. But is it the 19th? Yeah.
The 19th is what I have.
Okay, there you go.
Right. There's nothing else. I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
So moved
Do we have a motion by Trustee Easton? All in favor?
in there.
Yeah.
Trustee Bong's motioning.
Yeah.
He's been motioning, yeah.
Motioning away.
All those in favor of adjourning?
I.
Aye. None opposed. We're closed out at 8:12 p.m.
Good job, everybody.